At the first call of the cuckoo, Nunmaker thought it an artificial call, a neighbor's plaything, a child's toy. The first warm nights of spring had arrived, and Nunmaker and Ha kept their bedroom window open to catch a breeze. It was practically midnight, and the call of the cuckoo awoke him. Ha's placid face, her closed eyelids and seemingly painted brows, bothered him, but he didn't know this until he had already left the room. Their bedroom opened onto the widest room in the house, which served as kitchen, dining, and living room. Beyond this keeping room, a series of sliding glass doors that offered poor insulation in all seasons and a puzzle-like sequence to open for maximum use led into a tin-roof makeshift veranda that occupied two sides of their corner dwelling. Beyond the veranda was a 4-story fall into a winding alley so narrow it permitted the passage of only a single vehicle at a time. Buttressing this alley was a high concrete wall, green with age, that protected the elementary school that rose behind it, the top floor of which put its occupants at eye level with Nunmaker and Ha. At midnight, the opaque glass of the veranda doors glowed Prussian blue. The elementary school stood silently in shadow. Registering the unpleasantness he felt on waking, Nunmaker looked back into the bedroom and the still body on the floor, and then back at the sliding glass doors. He ventured further into the room. At its center, a stunted table with foldable legs had been left standing. It held only a single empty can of beer, slightly dented, where Ha's thumb had been overzealous. The second empty can had been left atop her upright piano. The piano took up the entirety of a closet space, their second of 3 advertised bedrooms, that was accessed through a wooden sliding door that often stalled in its runners and needed to be wrestled open or closed. For this reason, it was mostly kept open, unless Ha sought escape. This room, and the piano especially, was her domain. They had been married for 5 years, and Nunmaker knew not a single day that she hadn't played, though these days, these nights, she spent much of her time drinking at the stool and weakly fingering a beginner's scale, 2 octaves of C or A major, over and again. If the empty beer cans weren't emphasis enough of the disquieting tension they had cultivated over the years of living in these close and neglected quarters, Nunmaker spied a familiar and repugnant sight, a large cockroach, the largest he'd ever seen, deftly scaling the upper edge of the wall, just above the veranda doors, and as usual, disappearing into the narrow crevice between the wall and the hanging kitchen cabinets. The cockroach seemed a leitmotif in a symphony capturing his general failure, which included the empty cans, the bedless bedroom, the impractical sliding doors, the daily stink of kitchen and bathroom drains, and the 3 jobs he worked to maintain them all. The cuckoo's incessant call was a menacing addition, a demented peal from the woodwinds. Nunmaker knew better than hunt the cockroach. Instead, he retreated to the study, his domain, in the third of the 3 advertised bedrooms. Adjacent to their actual bedroom, the study was more spacious than the piano closet. It had a couch, bookshelves, a desk, and another sliding door leading to the opposite end of the veranda. It also had a small window that opened onto the teeming neighborhood that overgrew a valley, a steep decline from the perspective of the eyes that looked out from its opening. Nunmaker peered out this open window. He always marveled at the city at night. Despite being an inconsequential and practically unknown corner of the sprawling city of Seoul, this neighborhood, this landscape framed in the window, never knew darkness. An odd glow set its identical apartment blocks out from the deep space blue at their back. The play of lights created an optical illusion, lending a recurring, floating quality to the concrete stalagmites. Like the mountain that appears closer than it is, these buildings loomed towards him and slowly mooned across the horizon like great glaciers. In the still and silent night, they possessed more fantasy than reality. Nunmaker felt to be their only witness, the only creature to stir from sleep to witness their passage. Beginning with a painful choking sound and then building in volume like an analog hand-cranked siren, the cuckoo revived its call, shattering Nunmaker's illusion of being the sole eye that takes in the world and the sublime pleasure that comes with such an illusion. Now, with a clearer head, he realized that in all the years he had lived in Korea, this was the first he had heard from the cuckoo. In fact, this was the first time he had ever heard the cuckoo's call in flesh or in feather, and had only recognized it immediately because it sounded identical to the cuckoo clocks of childhood cartoons. He listened to it for several minutes, wondering where it could possibly be. The neighborhood provided a few trees to sustain any kind of bird life beyond sparrows who didn't need them. The only birds he recalled seeing were sparrows and magpie, the latter picked through trash, the former the vomit left by drunks returning home. Nunmaker had had enough of the window and the nighttime spell, but he couldn't shut out the cuckoo. He reclined on the couch and thought he now knew why cuckoo was a synonym for insanity. If the repetitive call continued, it would drive the neighbors to domestic quarrels via drink, for any disruption of the norm presented a reason to dull it, to distort reality. The domestic quarrels of spring and summer always led to a spectrum of sounds grounded in unbridled human emotions, anger and lust mainly, and in that order, the exposure of which reminded everyone in range of their personal collective shortcomings. From this perspective, the cuckoo seemed a mischievous thing, a puck or pan, a sprite of the dark forest come to revenge the city for its insistence on light, for its fear of the night.